Historical background of the Philippine government. The Philippine government takes place in an organized framework of a presidential, representative, and democratic republic whereby the president is both the head of state and the head of government. One of the era of the Philippine government is the barangay and the Sultanate pre-Spanish era. In early Philippine history, the barangay was a complex socio-political unit which scholars have historically considered the dominant organizational pattern among the various peoples of the Philippine archipelago. Barangays were headed by chieftains called datu. The term barangay refers to both a house on land and boat on water, containing families, friends, and dependents, and is currently the basic political unit of the Philippines. Unit of government was the barangay, which consisted of from 30 to 100 families. The term came from the Malay word balangay, meaning boat. The subjects served their chieftain during wars, voyage, planning, and harvest, and when his house needs to be built or repaired, they also paid tributes called buwis. The chief or datu was the chief executive, the legislator, and the judge. He was also the supreme commander in times of war. Alliances among barangays were common, and these were formalized in a ritual called sanduguan. Conflicts between among barangays were settled by violence. Those who win by force is always right. The laws of this era were either customary, handed down from generation to generation orally, or written, promulgated from time to time as necessity arose. Dealt with various subjects such as inheritance, property rights, violence, usury, family relations, divorce, adoptions, loans, etc. Those found guilty of crime were punished either by fine or by death. Some punishments can be considered as torture by modern standards. However, it must be noted that Asians did not believe in endangering society by letting loose a gang of thieves, of recidivists who are incapable of reform. Next era is the Spanish colonial administration and the Commonwealth. The Philippines was crown colony ruled by Spain through Mexico from 1565 to 1821. As such, Spain ruled the Philippines with the help of the Council of the Indies, created in 1524, which was an overseas ministry governing of the colonies of Spain. The head of the council was the Viceroy of Mexico. Encomienda system, a grant designed to reward those persons who have rendered valuable services to the King of Spain. Those who were given encomienda were called encomenderos. The Governor General. He was the king's official representative in the Philippines. He was vested with executive, legislative, and judicial powers. He also exercised religious and extraordinary powers called cumplies, the three most remembered Spanish governor-general in Philippines history: Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, Jose Vasco y Vargas, Carlos Maria de la Torre. The Royal Audiencia, categorized as the Supreme Court, it was established in the Philippines by virtue of the Royal Decree of May 5, 1583. Its first president was Governor-General Santiago de Vera. Its functions as an appeals court, hearing and deciding civil and criminal cases. The Royal Audiencia also performed non-judicial functions such as doing consultations with the governor, known as real arcados. In comparison to the Spaniards, Americans have a great effect on the development of science and technology in the Philippines. Almost every area of life in the nation was updated during the American occupation. The Philippines, the other hand, remained an agrarian country with sluggish industrialization. This appears to be due to the historical periods emphasized on agricultural and medical sciences. During this period, the country's mineral riches were also utilized. Furthermore, due to economic connections with the United States, the Philippines was unable to achieve full independence. Unfortunately, between 1942 and 1945, the Japanese government invaded the Philippines, thus halting scientific and technological progress in the country. The third era is the Third Republic. The Third Republic of the Philippines was inaugurated on July 4, 1946. It marked the culmination of the peaceful campaign for Philippines independence, the two landmarks of which were the enactment of the Jones Law in 1916 and the Philippines Independence Act of 1934, which put in place a 10-year transition period during which the Philippines had Commonwealth status. Presidents of the Third Philippine Republic: Manuel Rojas, Elpidio Quirino, Ramon Magsaysay, Carlos Garcia, Diosdado Macapagal, Ferdinand Marcos. The inauguration of the Third Republic marked the fulfillment of the long struggle for independence that began with the Philippines Revolution on August 23, 1896, and which was formalized on June 12, 1898 with the proclamation of Philippines independence at Kawit, Cavite. And the fourth was the Marcos and Aquino administration. Marcos was Manuel Rojas' technical assistant from 1946 to 1947. He was a House member 1949 to 59 and Senate President 1959 to 67, 1963 to 65. Marcos left the Liberal Party created by Rojas in 1965 after failing to win the party's presidential nomination. He stood for president as a nationalist against Diosdado Macapagal. Campaigning was expensive and nasty. Marcos became president on December 32, 1965. The first Philippine president to serve a second term was re-elected in 1969. He improved an agriculture, industry, and education during his first term. Student protests and urban guerrilla violence challenged his presidency. Marcos declared martial law on September 21, 1972. He believed communist and subversive forces had caused the crisis, so he created opposition politicians and turned the military into a regime arm. Marcos was opposed by political figures including Benigno Aquino Jr., who was jailed for 8 years, and church leaders. Maria Corazon Aquino, ni Maria Corazon Cuanco, born January 25, 1933, Tarlac Province, Philippines, died August 1, 2009, Makati. Philippines political leader who served as the first female president 1986 to 1992 of the Philippines, restoring democracy after Ferdinand Marcos' dictatorship. In March 1986, Aquino established a provisional constitution and named a Constitution Writing Commission. In February 1987, a landslide vote reinstated the bicameral Congress. Marcos dismantled in 1973. Aquino held new congressional election and broke up Marcos' friends' monopolies on the economy, which grew steadily for years. She failed to implement essential economic or social reforms, and her popularity eroded as economic inequity and political corruptions grew. These challenges were worsened by a communist insecurity and an untrustworthy military. Her financial plans were uneven or fluttered in the face of enormous poverty. Fidel Ramos replaced Aquino as president.